This is Beck99 talking to you live from the void. I wanted to talk briefly about the Backrooms, the movie. Going into the film, I was only like vaguely familiar with the concept of the Backrooms, and I wasn't really looking forward to the movie or anything like that. I just kind of had an opening in my schedule, and it seemed like the best choice for that particular day. So I went to go see it. I think the visuals were. This is like a spoiler review. I think the visuals were actually pretty cool. I mean, obviously, it's just like the same room or variations of a room or whatever, but just the idea of discovering something that hasn't been documented like formally. And it's like, what would a normal person do if they found something fantastical? I think that the film works better if you kind of understand um, that there's like I like to call it a Jumanji component to it. But the idea that like once they're back there, the normal person is just gonna walk for some reason. Like they're compelled, Like most of us would say, I'm not leaving the first area, you know? I'm going back to the wall. And I'm reporting it, you know? Like you have to say like, sure, maybe one day you'll be like, damn, maybe I should have kept it for myself or tried to, monetize it. But for me, just if it was today's year or day, I would just call the FBI or whoever and let them come do whatever the fuck they want to do with it. But I think the film did an interesting job of setting up the main character. I mean, obviously he didn't have too much backstory screen time, but he did just enough the basics to meet a person who has regrets, who has active regrets about their life. And when I say most people have regrets, but let's describe an active regret as like something you talk about all the time. Something if you give a person 2 drops of liquor, they can't wait to tell you about it. How they missed out on this thing or what they almost had or who wronged them or who put them in this position other than themselves. So he was a character like that. Wife left him, failing business. Most of us never, you know, um, start our own business, but you get the idea. You can extrapolate to just having a lot of bills or not having money to do things you need to do. So there's always that. So when I was looking, at the story, you can kind of see why he'd be interested in the space, because on one level this could be a way to redeem himself in terms of like, okay, my life sucks right now, but if I can prove this thing, then I'm back on the uptick. And most people, obviously this is a movie, so most people in real life, if you went somewhere, like even if it was an alien planet, you'd be looking over your shoulder like there's got to be something here. And not every story, but most stories involving and even without a sinister context, all of our patterns are established kind of easily. So the first time let's make it drinking. The first time you drink, it's for fun. Ha ha he he. You got friends there. You keep drinking long enough, depending on what you're doing in life, the friends may stay there or the friends may disappear. The party may disappear, the bars may disappear, and then it's just you and your bottle, right? Every day. Less and less fanfare, less and less things to celebrate, less and less milestones, less and less achievements, but the bottle stays. But it started out innocently enough. And that's kind of what the exploration of the back rooms, can progress like, or can be perceived to progress like, is you go into it one time, you come out, you have this false confidence. I can get out whenever I want. Look, the place is letting me map it. It's fine. But no, that's not how things work, So, but when you start doing something, or you start a behavior, or you start a pattern, the way out seems clear, it seems accessible. But then, so that's kind of one of the subtle draws to the story, for the audience, is the idea of being sort of trapped by something you thought was benign in the beginning. So the Clark character, he's doing whatever he's doing in his life. He's sleeping at the shop or the furniture store. He has a therapist. I couldn't get into the therapist character once she went into the wall. It was like that part. I guess, I don't know. This is the version that we have, but maybe I would have preferred, and then maybe if I had this version, I would have said it was stupid. But I would have preferred if they all just kind of woke up in the back rooms together. Like all the characters the film wanted to have back there. Clark, the two 20-somethings, the girl that worked there and her boyfriend with the camera, and then the psychiatrist. Just make it like Cube, and they just wake up back there or something. Because Clark going back and forth into the back rooms kind of lessened his character, because he didn't have to be back there. Now, if he went back there the first time and was just stuck the whole time, that's more compelling to me than, oh, I went out, went back in, I brought some kids, oh, I'm stuck. It's like, that's not even the back rooms killing you. That's like you killing you at this point. And then the psychiatrist lady, when she touched the wall, she should have immediately kept her ass out of there. You don't go in there going, Clark. And then you get back to the central part of the fact that when Clark first went in there, I was like, bro, like when he saw the stop sign, I thought he was going to stop. But he kept going, and he kept bending hella corners and turn. I was like, bro, what the hell is going on? So the psychiatrist eventually goes into the wall. One of the teens, or the 20-somethings, the male 20-something, he died initially, and then you see like the head of the girl in the refrigerator, and so you can kind of understand that Clark killed her because maybe she wanted to go home, or maybe she was super sad, obviously, about their predicament of being stuck in there. And so obviously it's tough to be marooned with anybody, especially in a shitty situation that they're kind of blaming you for. So, and if you don't think you're ever getting out, so we don't know what it's a sinister act, but we don't know, how crazy Clark was being when he did it, and it could have been, she didn't want to eat, or I don't know. I don't know what it was, but you can imagine it. And so then when he finds the psychiatrist, he takes her to the primary place where he was staying, and the character has this opportunity to mirror back some of the sort of psycho babble, or sort of surface level psychology that she was offering to him. And I thought that was kind of refreshing, because if you hear some of that stuff in a clinical setting, you're like, you can have a reaction to it. But when you put it in a setting that is just as absurd as the words that are being said, then you can really see how absurd those things are to say to a person that's kind of, in crisis. That's, it sounds like it sounds therapeutic, but, you know, it's kind of hollow at the same time too. So I thought that was, and that was just my perception of it, but I'm pretty sure that's what most audience members will, take away from the reciting of those lines, because when she was saying that in the real world, or in this, world that we live in, where, wherever you are in the world, you have your own set of rules and stuff like that, governmental wise, but in social. But it was just interesting to see those lines be put under a different microscope, and you can and see how the context changes and what it really means. And I thought that was a refreshing part of it. The therapist, the therapist, she gets discovered by it's not a government agency, but it's the people who are making MRI machines, I guess, in this universe. They have their own private research team that's studying the Backrooms. So she's there with them, and you get the impression that they don't want to let her go. Like they don't want to just say, okay, well, if however that guy that's working there gets in and out, they don't want to let her out through that door. So the second one, if there was to be a second one, she'd have to escape that facility. And then the last frame is like a version of her sitting somewhere in the back rooms. So the back rooms remembers her or something like that. But all in all, I think it's an interesting movie if you can get over the fact that it's written in a way where they keep going into this place and they don't have to. So say like even the teenagers or the 20-somethings, I'm going to agree with 20-somethings. The 20-somethings, he could not make me go into that place. I would have touched the wall, saw it in my arm, went through it, and said, "That's good enough." I'm not even a professional cameraman. You can I don't know if I'd give him the camera because it's not mine, and I don't have, the money to buy a new one if he doesn't come back. But I'm not going in there. I'm not rappelling down anywhere. So a lot of the stuff was kind of unnecessary, and the psychiatrist was unnecessary. Clark himself getting undone by the Backrooms was written in a way where it didn't have to happen. So I felt like the script needed to get the characters it wanted into the Backrooms in sort of a one-shot inciting incident, as of going back and forth and just making it, like I said, and now I'm in full circle mode. So I'll end it here. Back to now.